everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews. And while we just had a more recent, very short drive with the all-new BMW M5 Touring up a wet mountain road, we now have the M5 Sedan here in this absolutely gorgeous BMW Individual Sepia Metallic paint finish for a full week of review. And over the course of this week, I have truly been testing every new aspect of this vehicle to its maximum-ish capacity on a road basis. We've tested this all-new plug-in hybrid M hybrid system here with the V8. We have been able to experience all the latest new technologies in this M5 and seen how the increased weight, size, and just all the stuff this new vehicle has to offer has been over the course of this week. So I definitely think I have a lot to say on different aspects of the car, and let's go take you guys on a full tour and review of this vehicle now. Let's go dive in. Now, of course, the most significant changes with this latest generation G90 M5 are under the hood, of course, in the form of this M hybrid powertrain. Now, we've experienced this powertrain multiple times in the past with the BMW XM, which we were able to drive for a short period of time, as well as, of course, the M5 Touring that we just were able to wind up a mountain road. But now I've been living with this powertrain over the course of the week, and it is definitely very complex and very potent as well. Combined power is over 717 horsepower, but how this is broken up and how it all pairs together is actually quite interesting. So we have, of course, this 4.4 liter twin turbocharged S68 engine right up front here, and alone this is making over 500 horsepower. Now, in between this and the 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox is an electric motor making around 194-ish horsepower. And of course, combined, we're getting that full total figure over 700 horsepower, which is pretty wild. But since this is a plug-in hybrid vehicle and not just a mild hybrid, on the floor of the middle of the vehicle, mounted just like almost like an EV in a sense, is around a 15 kilowatt hour battery pack. I think around 14.5 kilowatt hours is usable. And that's mounted nice and low for weight distribution wise, low center of gravity, which is actually quite genius of them to do for this. And of course, that's fueling that electric system here, and you can get around 25 to 30-ish miles of fully electric range depending on your driving style. And this is primarily a performance hybrid system. All of this system is coming together to give you the most maximum performance, and it comes together with a great torque fill feature here. So this electric system really can almost eliminate any sort of turbo lag you're getting out of this vehicle. Peak torque comes in around 1800 RPM and just keeps going up through the rev range. And since we still have this engine here, it still has that signature V8 rumble, thrust, and sound, even though it may be a little bit muted than it once was. And it still revs up to around 7,000-ish RPM. So you can still have some fun with this vehicle and not have all the fun, sucked out by just a pure electric vehicle. So it is definitely a unique system. BMW has said they've tested this throughout motorsport, and over the course of this week, I would say it's actually quite unique on a day-to-day basis application, though it does have its quirks, which we will get into later on in this video. Now, one area which I personally think isn't a debatable topic whatsoever is this design on the all-new M5. I think it just looks honestly epic in person. It isn't capturing the same unique design of maybe the last generation M5, or especially the M5 CS, which I did just see coming over here today in green, which is awesome. But this BMW Individual Sepia Metallic paint finish is absolutely gorgeous, as well as pretty much any other color you want on the vehicle you can have if you pay for a price. This one also is coming with the M carbon package, so that actually saves around 66-ish pounds, which, yeah, that's kind of fun. But we do get a carbon fiber roof on this one, carbon fiber side mirrors, as well as a carbon rear wing, which is quite nice. And overall, I think it looks kind of cool as well. But overall, I think this new M5 just is a really mean looking vehicle on the road. It has a very significant presence just in both of its size, but as well as some changes we're getting. Of course, we have the iconic glow grille up here with you can turn on or off if you like that or not, with the shadow line style grille design. And coming down to the lower bumper area over here, this is just a very aggressive looking space. There's a lot of wide openings over here, of course, for the insane amount of cooling that this M hybrid system is going to need from the motor and the battery and all that stuff there. So we have a very large open section down here, which looks very intimidating intimidating, I would say. All gloss black finished, and there are just so many vents around the vehicle for passive airflow as well, which is really nice. And I just overall think the design of this latest generation 5 Series has grown on us quite a lot here at Allcarnews. Here we have our wheel, tire, and of course suspension combination going on here. So this is just one of a few different wheel options you can get on the new M5, and of course you can go aftermarket and go really whatever you want. But these I think are a fine looking wheel option, nothing too crazy, and they are a staggered setup. So we have a 20-inch wheel up front, 21-inch wheel out back, and these are pretty wide tires, as you can imagine how heavy this car is and how big this vehicle is. We have 285 width tires up front, and out back we have 295 with tires as well. So you got a lot of tire on the ground. We have these Hankook tires, which have been pretty good over the course of this week. They're a little bit loud, actually, I've noticed on some surfaces. I would like to see maybe a Michelin rubber on this one as well, but of course you can put any tire you want on the vehicle. And hiding behind these wheels are the optional M carbon ceramic brakes. They are an $8,500 option. Yes, that is the actual figure for this particular brake package. And again, it is an option. You don't need it, but they work incredibly well, as one could imagine. And for stopping this vehicle with its mass, it's actually quite shocking how quick this vehicle can come to a full stop at pretty much almost any speed. So they do work very, very well. In addition to that, you do have regenerative braking as part of this hybrid system, which you can adjust via your setup screen. So there's 3 levels of that. And it actually also works really well at both stopping the vehicle and very quickly charging up this battery pack. Of course, we have adaptive suspension as well. So that works absolutely fantastic on this vehicle. It's one of the best adaptive suspensions I've honestly felt. There is a true difference between Comfort, Sport, or Sport Plus. You truly notice it, and the body control of the vehicle just totally changes how this M5 drives on the road. And I also like how this vehicle has rear wheel steering. It doesn't feel as aggressive or twitchy as the rear wheel steering did in the i5 M60 that we did have to review, and I like that a lot. I think they really tuned in the rear wheel steering on this vehicle to really help you get into a corner well. It doesn't feel like you have to oversteer or understeer just a little bit with the steering inputs, which some rear steering systems make you feel like you have to do. They're just a little bit too twitchy and aggressive. I think this is probably one of the best rear steer tuning applications I've felt in a BMW product. Now, coming around to the rear of the all-new M5, you get a little bit of a better peek back here of this carbon fiber roof we have, as well as the carbon rear lip spoiler we have on the top of this trunk over here. And again, generally the design is pretty similar to the rest of the 5 Series lineup. Same thing with the taillights you've seen over here. That has not changed. Again, this really gorgeous paint looks amazing in the sun right now. And coming down to the lower area over here is really where you're gonna find the differences on the M5 versus the other 5 Series vehicles. So a little bit more width, a little bit more wild stuff with these more aggressive cutouts for our rear reflector lights over here. And the big change, of course, is the lower diffuser section down here, which is hiding the quad-tipped, dark finished exhaust. And of course, we still have a pretty usable trunk area over here. We are getting a full power rear tailgate as well. Back here, we have around, I think, 16.5 cubic feet of cargo space. I believe we still have the ability to fold the seats down as well. Yes, we do, via these little levers there. And we do have a charge port that BMW has included with us this week in this bag over here, so we can plug that in some areas. It is a decent amount of cargo space, but we do have, of course, the M5 Touring wagon available now. So if you do want some increased cargo capacity on your M5, that is now an actual feasible thing to choose from. So that's nice to have. And of course, we have little buttons up here to lock or just close our rear trunk as well. Okay, everyone, let's go take a tour of the interior of the M5. Since this car is larger than it ever was before, I think this rear space is still a great place to put people, even on some long distance drives. So opening up the door over here, nice, big, wide door opening here. You actually have a very, very large door opening here. Nice solid thunk, as we should expect out of a 5 Series. And immediately you're going to notice we have side shades right here. They are manual, but I like how we have a shade both for our actual main window and this little rear quarter window, and it really does work well, actually, which is quite nice. Back here, again, all of the build quality of modern BMWs is still top notch. Just the materials, I think, have gone just a little bit bit wonky all over the place, though. This is definitely a nice place to be. I don't have the same complaints I have in the new X3 as I do in this vehicle. Incredibly gorgeous Bowers & Wilkins speaker grille here. This is really nice, and I like how the speakers back here do glow up in the color of your ambient lighting. Very luxurious touch back there. I even like the door handles, quite slim, and we have this silver and black style more extended merino leather interior. So we have extra leather in here, contrasting stitching, pretty decent sized door cubby with ambient lighting. Even our little cubby up here is ambient lit as well. Actually feels quite solid and nice. I do like that. I also like how we have an air vent actually on the side over here, just like in the X5s do. Really cool touch. And right in front of us, we have these wild M seats, so we can see through them if our driver isn't there. We do have an M badge right here. Pop this down, you're gonna have a USB-C port and an accessory little hook here. So there's some other accessories you can plop into the seats, though we are losing out on any sort of rear seat cargo space, but you know, this is an M vehicle. You're gonna take a little bit of some sacrifices there. Though the best part about this interior is that it is very, very spacious. I have a plethora of legroom. I can even like stretch out a little bit more. So foot space is okay. This particular seat, how I have it, is just in the lowest position. That can definitely be moved up, but I still can fit my feet under there, and it is ambient lit. We do have a significant hump in the floor though, so if you do want to fit 3 people back here, it might be a little bit tight. Folding down our center armrest, we do have 2 nice cup holders as well, and of course we can fold these seats down. We even have a ski style pass over here, so we can fold this down and access our trunk still, which is quite nice as well. Glad they kept that feature. I also like how every seatbelt in this vehicle gets the M stitching on it, as it should in a proper M product, which is cool. You can see that over there. And again, nice treatment on this same door panel, same shades back there, and we even have a shade in the rear back over here, which operates very, very quickly, which is nice. We have some LED lighting right above us as well, which is nice, and this really nice Alcantara headliner here. No sunroof, as we do have the carbon fiber roof package on this one, but there is a full Sky Lounge roof that does not open available as well on the M5. Center console area over here, we have our 2 air vents over here, which is quite nice, and this one does have the optional center console screen control here. So this is actually a separate option in the BMW parts bin. I really think this is a cool looking screen. You have our heated seat controls here, which is very easy to use for the 2 outboard seats. Easy controls for our rear fan as well, which is easy to use, and we can even kind of adjust our temperature and other stuff back here. This is a pretty useful screen actually. Pretty good rear seats, but let's go check out the front end over there, because of course that is where the business is really happening. Open up the door panels. You are getting some nicer stuff up here, I can definitely tell you that. So we can see the M colors shooting to life across the dash here, which is one of the coolest animation startups I think I've seen in this class. But we are getting some nicer luxury features up front here, but we're going to check that out when we go hop inside. Also want to point out this really nice M5 side sill plate here, as well as this seat. This is a really cool seat here. This isn't the most upgraded seat I believe you can get, but we do have full power adjustment and more adjustment in the screen. We even have a really nice amount of cushioning and support as well, and we have of course the glowing M5 logo, which we see in a lot of M products these days. But let's hop inside. Pretty easy to get in and out, and let's check out that door thunk one more time. Ah, that sounds quite nice. And here we are inside of the cabin of the all-new BMW M5. So we're going to locate our big red start-stop switch in the center console over here, and let's fire it up. On the side door over here, we have that nice leather kind of armrest section over here in the extended leather package. This is actually more of a soft touch material down here, not hard scratchy plastics, and lots of speaker stuff going on here. So we have our glowing Bowers & Wilkins speaker grille up here, as well as a part, I believe this is a speaker section down here as well, which is quite nice. Decent amount of side door cubbies. On the left hand side over here, we can see our gorgeous carbon fiber trim with this silver weave in it, which is really nice. And here we have our controls here, all touch panel based, so we can open and close our vents easily. Quick access to our lighting controls in the center console area over here. Some quick access controls for our lights on or just auto, or turn them off. And we have our gas cap release to depressurize it, as this is a plug-in hybrid at the end of the day. Door cards over here. This is the one area where I just am not a big fan of the touch stuff. We have our lock and unlock switches here. Easy to operate, but honestly it's a little bit weird to kind of shove your hand to the side like that. Steering wheel wise, this is the new M steering wheel we have been seeing across a variety of vehicles, which is quite nice. Nice and chunky. We have M stitching going all the way around it, which I think is still a nice touch. That big red 12 12 o'clock marker we're seeing on all of these M steering wheels these days. And we do have paddle shifters, though you're gonna note we don't have a boost function on this particular paddle, as we're lacking the M driver pack. So we're actually missing a few features, but we'll get to that in just a second. Digital cluster over here, pretty much the same as every BMW, though of course we have the full M skin on it, so that's unique to the M vehicles. Lots of fun stuff here that we have on the M5 though, so we can put up sports displays, tire temperatures, setup controls, our full map as well from BMW Maps or Waze or Apple CarPlay, which is cool. Same things with our heads-up display, incredibly configurable as well, so that's always great to use. And if we go to our M modes here, we press the center button, we'll have road and sport, but since we're missing the M driver pack, we don't get the track button here. Of course, we have our iDrive 8.5 style screen up here, so nothing too new here from other 5 Series, still well integrated, I think, in the dash. And of course, we have this wild ambient light bar throughout the entirety of the interior, but it operates in the same fashions we've seen in all the other 5 Series and even 7 Series we had on this channel. So of course, you put on your hazard lights here, you do a cool animation there, and lots of other cool animations throughout the vehicle. We have of course our touch haptic buttons here for our air vents up front, and of course to control them is this funky little switch here, which honestly does take quite some time to get used to, but eventually you'll kind of figure out how this operates. But I'm not a big fan of this gloss black piece up here. It's very, very fingerprinty, especially right next to the iDrive screen there. What I am a big fan of though is this center console, minus all of the gloss black, but wireless charger works great. It is ventilated, does actually charge your phone well. We have another little spot here for a phone. I like the illuminated cup holders as well that change with your ambient lighting styles, which pretty decent size for the cup holders as well, and 2 USB-C ports right there, which is quite nice. And since this is a 5 Series, I have a significant amount of legroom as well as a thigh adjustment, so this does move in and out as well, which I do like. Center console area over here, I like how we still have our iDrive controller here in crystal, glowing M badge in the center, which is really nice. I love that. And everything here works very, very well, just as it does in every other BMW. A lot of quick, hard buttons that work with Apple CarPlay as well, so if I'm in media and Apple CarPlay, it'll go to that, or if I'm in media in the BMW system, it'll go to that system. Same thing with the navigation, that depends on what you're using, Apple CarPlay or the BMW based system. Really cool dynamic stuff there. And of course, this works very well just like every other iDrive controller. I think this is a great way to still use the screens. I'm glad they still have it, but of course we still have touch. Center area over here, we are getting into some confusing bits here. So we do have lots of different modes to go through. So pressing setup here, you are going to be able to see your setup screen. Now, this is where you're going to be able to configure your drivetrain from Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, your regenerative braking system, 3 levels of that, your drive logic for your transmission. So they actually moved that to the screen versus having a button or any sort of shifter. So we have this little stubby thing here, no drive logic button, which I actually wish they kept. I think that would have been cool to still have, or just a little unique M shifter here. Chassis controls, steering, brake, our MX drive, so we can put it into rear wheel drive mode, 4-wheel drive sport, which is reduced, so it's focused a little bit more power on the rear, and our exhaust sounds. But we are missing again a traction control option here, which is in that M driver pack, which again this vehicle does not have for some reason. There is more. So now I'm going to press our M hybrid button here. So this is a separate setting here, so we could have it be always a hybrid, always start in pure electric mode. Battery's low right now, so we can't do that. Or we have this e-control system here. Now, since we don't have that M driver pack, we're actually missing out on additional M hybrid modes. So I'm not even going to mention them here. So hopefully we'll have that down the road to kind of configure and play with. And we still have our fantastic BMW camera systems with the backup assistant, full parking assist, many, many driving views and 3D views, of course, endless and stuff in this vehicle to kind of play around with as well. So I love that. Center armrest over here, completely covered in leather, very nice feeling. Open up the button here, we have a decent amount of storage in here, pardon all the junk in here, but felt lined. I think this is a good storage space here. And we still have a nice physical button for our glove box. I mean, it is lockable as well, which I do like. So you can press that in there, and we have a little storage cubby in here for some stuff as well. Felt lined and illuminated, which is nice. And I love the carbon fiber trim on this interior. It looks absolutely gorgeous, especially if you're sitting in the vehicle as a passenger. You're just going to be staring at carbon fiber and the crazy light bar in the vehicle, which is nice. Of course, we have quick access buttons up here. You're also are getting an interior camera, which you can use as well. And if you press this button here, that's going to give you quick access to your interior lighting as well as your ambient lighting. And of course, we get the unique Indigo M theme we have here for the M vehicle, but of course we have plenty of different options to kind of change. Of course, we have our latest generation iDrive system with the BMW M skin on it as well. So we've seen this before in the M2. Very basic stuff here. I like this skin for the vehicle. It's very unique. All of these cards can be moved around how you want them. You just hold down, kind of swipe them across as well. It's a little bit of a funky horizontal layout that kind of do here, this vertical slashes here, but you do definitely get used to it and kind of configure it how you want. Our climate system as well over here, unique again to the M vehicles. We have a unique little steering wheel design here, which I think is kind of fun to look at. But we can, of course, we have ventilated seats, heated seats, which you can turn on both at the same time as well. German vehicles are the only ones that do that still. Download apps, watch YouTube, play games, watch video stuff, listen to Spotify. It's a lot of cool things just kind of built into the system, but this stuff is still a little bit mildly confusing to kind of figure out, though. You can make these all sort of like favoritized buttons, I believe, and move them around how you want. You can kind of customize this. Definitely a little bit of a learning curve, even though I still think iDrive is probably, if not one of my favorite, maybe the full ultimate favorite current infotainment system in the industry. But overall, this is a pretty nice interior space. It's incredibly luxurious, I would say. These seats are super comfortable, heated and ventilated, like I mentioned. They really hug you. You almost feel like you're sitting in a high performance luxury couch, if that makes any sort of sense whatsoever. I really do like them. Driving position's actually really fantastic. You really get that nice angled down front hood, so you really can always see where you are planting the vehicle. And it does make it feel a little bit more virtually shorter than it is in person, because the vehicle is actually quite big overall. And now let's go take this thing out on the road and see how it handles. Quick acceleration here in electric mode. Engine kicks on, we're in hybrid. And that was actually one of the smoothest transitions I've felt this week. If you're not really on the throttle, actually, what I've noticed with this system, the M hybrid powertrain has a little bit of a jittering you may feel when that engine kicks on and it fills in with the electric motors. In the more performance-oriented modes, the engine will always be on. So I have my M1 and M2 set up for Sport, and then Sport Plus for the powertrain in that order. So the engine will always be on. You get more sound. You can even adjust your regenerative braking as well. Coming around some corners here, this is where the M5 honestly surprised me. It really drives smaller than it is, and that's thanks to the rear wheel steering, as well as just BMW's great driving and chassis dynamics they're able to incorporate in the car. But you can't hide how big the vehicle is at the end of the day. It is still pretty long, pretty wide, and still heavy. Even though the battery pack is mounted flat on the floor for optimal center of gravity and weight distribution stuff, you still notice that weight in some applications. Though with over 700 horsepower, this thing is definitely really quick, but it's really cool how you can just let it go into its regular modes here and just putt around town in electric mode. I can force it into electric mode as well, like I mentioned, so I'm going to pop it in there. We're going to get a little bit of a different gauge cluster design. Here we go. So we have a blue gauge cluster there, and you can, I think, go up to around 80 miles an hour in electric mode. And it has almost 200 horsepower in electric mode. And it's almost surprisingly quick, actually, in pure EV mode. But what's cool, though, is even if you're locked in electric mode, if you floor your foot down to the floor with the kick down pedal, the engine will kick on. I'll show you guys right here. And it kind of kicks on. A little bit of like some rough idling stuff that happens with this powertrain, but it does kick on to gear pretty well, which is quite nice. The only thing I will say, though, is if you're in electric mode, there is a little bit of some stuttering that happens in this gearbox. So the electric motor is actually sandwiched in between the engine and the 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox here. And with that, I've noticed there is a little bit of some grinding that happens in that second gear. You don't notice it all the time, but every now and then you do feel that happen in this M hybrid system, which is a little bit unfortunate. I've noticed that in plenty other plug-in hybrid vehicles, actually, other than this one. So that's something to keep note, actually. rear wheel steering really does help in with turn in as well. It feels really nice and sharp. And you know, this is just a lot more of a dailyable vehicle, I think, in some aspects than the previous generation M5 was, especially with this electric powertrain. But also on the flip side of that, it might just be a little bit not as insanely aggressive and mean as that last generation M5 was. You know, you don't have as many aggressive feeling modes, I'd say, without this M drivers pack, which I don't know why this one doesn't have it. So I think that hybrid system can be a little bit more sporty and aggressive in those modes. And the exhaust just isn't as raucous or loud as it can be. It has that really deep, throaty rumble sound to it, but it doesn't sound really insane even when just revving it in some places. So that's easily to fix with mods. A lot of that's due to particulate emissions regulations. So we're in M1 now. More aggressive downshifts. This thing is not slow. Anything but slow this car is, I can tell you that. And despite the weight, this M hybrid powertrain really feels like they shoved like a rocket under the hood. It goes like crazy. And the best part about this whole system is that with the hybrid bits, the torque comes in at around 1800 RPM and just carries itself out throughout the rev band, which is really quite nuts. So you really do feel like you're being thrown back in your seat. And just keeps revving up. The V8 revs up, the hybrid system kicks into gear. It's really quite impressive. And since this thing has the a driver assistance package, we can just pop it into that mode as well. And we even have things like automatic lane change, so it's going to do a lane change for us when I manually activate it. It doesn't have the full highway assistant that you can get in other 5 Series. I'm presuming because BMW wants more people to drive this car a little bit more so. It could come in a later update in the vehicle though, so I'm not too sure. That one will allow you to basically turn your head to the different cameras, the different side mirrors, and it will actually change lanes, which is pretty cool. But the system works really well on the highway. Full lane centering. You do have to keep your hands on the steering wheel, of course. And under 40 miles an hour, we have our assistant mode, so you can actually take your hands off the wheel, albeit you are looking at the road the whole time. Also, you can see with Waze turned on, we have Apple Maps and or Waze show up in the digital cluster over here, which I think is a really, really cool feature as well. But that's across the entire BMW lineup now that has these latest generation screens, which is pretty cool. But though out here on the highway, you can definitely tell this thing is a just straight up Autobahn cruiser. It's very stable, very planted. And what's really surprising to me is if you're going around a corner with even bumps or undulations in the road, this is how you can tell it was tested on the Nürburgring, in the sense that it just stays planted. It doesn't feel like it's hopping around. The rear doesn't feel like it's hopping around. You have pretty wide tires as well, so you have a lot of grip, which is great. And it's just the amount of speed you can carry in these M5s, even in a corner, is just nuts. And it feels planted, it feels secure, and with the optional carbon ceramic brakes we have in the car, it's a beast. It is a beast of a car at the end of the day. And it's amazing what BMW is still able to pull off despite the weight of the vehicle. I got to keep talking about it because everyone is talking about it. It isn't that big of an issue. It is present, it is noticeable in some cases, but overall I think they've done a really impressive job at managing it and how it just overall fits into the character of this vehicle. Even in 5th gear, this thing just pulls off like crazy, and that's very light on the throttle. It is truly impressive what this car can do with this M hybrid system here. But overall, it's been a really cool week with this all-new BMW M5. I'm just going to pop it here into the driver assistance mode for a second. Have a little relaxing highway drive here, but it's fun. It's fun to drive. It's a much more, I think, dailyable car than the previous generation. I think that's going to be a unique thing for some people who like to daily their M5. You still have that incredible power, but now that kind of blending capability of the electric powertrain, and that benefits both for daily drive use as well as performance applications. It is quicker. But you can definitely tell that there is a lot of room to play with this vehicle for BMW. I can totally see more power coming out of the system. I could potentially even see them ditch the hybrid system and boost up the V8's power, maybe like 617 or something. They have the room to do that. So this is the first foray really into this M hybrid system we have right now. So there's more to come. I can definitely feel that it's baked into the car in that sense. So we'll see what they're able to do. They may be able to shave even more weight out of this vehicle. We could see maybe a M550 sort of M560 return. That would be really cool as well. So we'll see what comes down the road. But for now, this is pretty good. We already are seeing people tune the vehicle with better exhaust sounds, lots of other stuff, but as its own package coming out of BMW, it for sure is the most technologically advanced M5 ever. I think it looks incredible. This interior is more luxurious, I think, in a lot of its senses. It's very comfortable, very cushy, and while also being very performance oriented at the same time with these seats, with a lot of the M goodies around you. I think they did a good job here. Could it be a little bit more aggressive? Yes, I think, like I mentioned, that's still baked into this car. I think that's still to come. So I would hold out on those comments just for a little bit for now. But as of this, it's a pretty good vehicle. Maybe go for the touring. I think it's a little bit more unique than the sedan. I think it looks really cool as well. And I'm sure day-to-day driving, it's going to be just as good as this, even though we had a really brief drive in it. As always, guys, as maybe blinded by the sun, thank you for joining us on yet another full week and tour review over at Allcarnews. And as always, stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.